Hi, my name's Imogen, I'm 19 years old and I'm currently on a gap year. Today's video, you might notice, is in a slightly different setup compared to my other videos, and that is for a reason. Today's video is going to be a bit more chatty, a bit more chilled, because this video isn't necessarily aimed at inspiring you or helping you to do something, but instead it's just about providing a bit of context for my channel. As I say in every intro to all of my videos, I am currently on a gap year, and today I'm going to be talking all about why I decided to take a gap year. Taking a gap year for me wasn't just a result of one thing happening, but instead it was a build-up of lots of different factors that kind of influenced this decision that I decided to take to have a gap year. So about this time last year, I think it was this time last year. Actually no, it was earlier, it was January. About January last year, my grandma was actually diagnosed with terminal cancer. And obviously this had a huge emotional impact on my family generally, but little did I know at the time that this would actually go on to have quite a big knock-on effect on my decision to take a gap year, which I took in about August time, I think. So although my grandma was obviously very, very ill, she was actually doing okay. She was living at home by herself until about, I think it was about March last year. And then my great aunt came across from Cornwall to look after her. My grandma lives in Eastbourne, by the way. So she came across to look after her for about a month. And I'm going to put a picture on screen now of me, my mum, my great aunt and my grandma. It's one of my favourite photos because we all seem to have coordinated without talking to each other. We're all wearing pink, which is a bit strange, but anyway. And then in about April, I guess it was April, May time, my grandma started to go downhill quite rapidly, and unfortunately she was admitted to hospital in Eastbourne. Obviously when you've got somebody in your family with a terminal illness, you just don't know how long you've got with them. And so we were tending to go down on Saturdays at this point, just on Saturdays. To go down to Eastbourne and then back to where I live in Essex in one day takes about 5 hours in the car. So it's quite a long journey. I know that A-levels are a really difficult time for everyone. They're really emotionally draining and physically draining, sitting through hours of exams every day. But when you've got that additional emotional pressure of having somebody who is really, really ill in your family and somebody who you're also kind of worrying about in the back of your mind, it does make it particularly difficult. And so for that reason, I found A-levels really quite challenging. Although time is really precious during exams, and travelling down to Eastbourne to go and see my grandma once or maybe twice a week wasn't necessarily the revision plan I had in mind, we had some really good memories during that time. And one of my favourites was actually on the day when this goes live, this day last year. It's my grandma's birthday today, and we all gathered together, all of my family gathered together to celebrate her birthday. We went to this really, really nice, I think it was an afternoon tea shop down in, I actually don't know where we went. Anyway, it was near Eastbourne. We went to this really, really nice afternoon tea shop down in Eastbourne, and it was just nice to see my cousins. I hadn't seen them in about 2 years, and it was nice to be able to catch up with everyone. At the end of the meal, my grandma gave us all a card with a check-in, and I've actually got mine here, so I'm going to read you a bit of it. The card says, "Dear Imogen, enclosed is a gift from me to you." She's talking about the check in the card. "You may want to spend it on a new laptop, interrailing, or having a trip somewhere wonderful in the future. The choice is yours. Do let me know what your plans are. I would love to hear all about them. I could not be prouder of all that you have achieved over the last few years, especially watching you speak in Parliament. I know you are destined to go on to greater things and will be very successful in whatever you choose to do. Keep seizing every opportunity and enjoy your time at university. Thank you for being a wonderful granddaughter and giving me so many treasured memories. Love, Grandma." Unfortunately, she wasn't actually well enough to write the card herself, so my mum's actually typed it out for her, but you can see she's signed it at the bottom. And I guess you might be thinking, Imogen, you just seem to be waffling on about stuff that isn't really relevant to this video, but actually it was the check that she gave me and the money that she gave me inside this card that really made me think, and also her words about having a trip somewhere amazing, that really made me think in August, when I did decide to have a gap year, that I would actually be able to do it, because I obviously had the money to be able to fund travelling and things like that, and it enabled me financially to be able to support myself during this gap year. I guess the other thing to take away from this is the fact that obviously I was saying it was really emotionally draining, travelling down to Eastbourne and trying to revise, and also knowing that my grandma wasn't going to get better. And that definitely made me think about whether I just wanted to go straight back into education in September, or whether stepping away from education for a bit would be a better decision for me at that time. So thankfully my grandma was still fine. She was in hospital during a lot of my A-levels, and I'll always remember after my last A-level maths exam, I actually went out with some of my friends that night, and I came back home at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then about 10 o'clock in the morning my parents were like, right, we're going to Eastbourne to see grandma, and I was like, oh my god, I literally could not think of anything worse. I don't drink, so I wasn't like massively hungover or anything, I was just absolutely shattered. And I always remember going down to Eastbourne, and we got to the hospital where my grandma was, and I was just so tired. I fell asleep on a hospital bed. My grandma was in the chair next to her bed, and I was sitting on her bed, and then I just fell asleep. And then when I woke up, I was just flicking through my phone, and my grandma was asking me what I was doing with my phone. So I was just showing her some Snapchat filters, and I put this filter on her of an angel, because you know there's the one with like the angel on it. And she was like, oh, not yet, Imogen. And I was like, okay, I mean, it's a bit dark humour, but like, it was just some of those memories that we'll really cherish. And even though I was feeling absolutely rotten, I'll just always remember that. So later that summer, my grandma was still doing okay. She was in a hospital, and then she later got moved to a hospice. For those of you who don't know, a hospice is a place where terminally ill patients can go, either for respite care or for end-of-life care. And at the time it was just a better place to have her than in a hospital, because the hospital environment wasn't really suiting her. And a bed came up in the hospice, so they said they could just transfer her over. A hospice is definitely a much nicer environment than a hospital to be in, and so we were quite pleased when she got moved over. And especially St Winifred's Hospice down in Eastbourne, they have an absolutely fantastic team of staff. They've got a restaurant there, the buildings are beautiful, the gardens are beautiful. It's just absolutely lovely environment to be in, and actually I much preferred going to visit her in a hospice than a hospital. And a lot of people, I think this is a bit of a tangent, but a lot of people would find that really strange, because people often associate hospices with being places where people just go and die, but actually hospices are really positive places. They're really uplifting, and they're places for people to really enjoy what might be the last few days of their life, or just to have a break from everything else that's going on, a break from their family, so that they can focus on getting better for a little bit, particularly if it's parents of children who are unwell. So I had a really nice time going to visit my grandma. Obviously I could visit her a lot more between my A-levels, and then I started work at summer school in early July. I was helping international students to learn English and doing activities with them all day, and I only got 1 day off a week, which was fine. I was really enjoying the work, and I knew that's what I'd signed up for, but that meant that I wasn't able to go and visit my grandma as much as I'd been used to. And it was the first Wednesday at summer school, and obviously my parents go down on a Wednesday, and so I knew they'd be down in Eastbourne, but it was about 9 o'clock at night, and my mum was phoning me from my grandma's landline number down in Eastbourne, and that's when I first kind of twigged that something was wrong. And I said, what's going on? And basically my mum was like, oh, nothing, it's fine. And I knew she hadn't booked the next day off work, and she was just trying to be nice, but it kind of later transpired that my grandma was actually really unwell. And I was like, right, okay, I'll ask for the day off work, I'll come down to Eastbourne tomorrow on the train. And my mum was like, you really don't worry about it, I'm not sure that it would be worth it. And that's kind of when I first knew that something was really badly wrong. So that was on the Wednesday, and then I went to bed on Wednesday night, and then by Thursday morning, once I'd woken up at about 6 in the morning, it turned out my grandma had actually passed away in the night. So it was quite a sudden death, and I wasn't expecting it, and so I did find that really, really tough, particularly because obviously I was working all day, and I was continuing to work, and summer school did offer me the time off, but I said no, I'd rather work, I'd stay busy. My parents weren't up in Essex anyway, so I'd just be going home to see my brother, which wasn't really going to do me any good. I'd just be sitting around thinking about it. And it definitely took me by surprise, and I did find it really difficult not being able to kind of grieve with my family or anything until the weekend when I had a day off. That definitely took its toll on me emotionally. I then continued to work through summer school, and obviously I was earning money, so that was really good because I then also had more financial support in order to have a gap year. And if you haven't seen my video about trying to get accommodation in the Netherlands, because at this point I still thought I was going to university in the Netherlands, then do check out my other video. It explains it all in there, and you'll see that this was also happening at the same time whilst I was working at summer school. The other thing that played a big role in my decision was the fact that I just wasn't sure about rushing into the course at Manchester. For the whole summer, and in fact the whole of the time that I'd been in year 13, I'd thought I was going off to the Netherlands, and I kind of set my heart on that. So to then obviously not be able to go because of accommodation, and I really did think accommodation was going to work out, it kind of knocked me for six a bit, and I was a bit like, well, I hadn't even thought about going to Manchester at this point, which is probably my fault for being a bit stupid. But anyway, I hadn't even thought about going to Manchester. I don't think I'd really sorted out accommodation there either. In fact, I'm not sure I'd sorted out much to go to university in the UK. But I wasn't really sure about the course. The course was International Disaster Management and Humanitarian Response. I've also spoken about this in my UCAS video, but I just thought it was too niche and I wasn't necessarily sure it was the best thing for me to do. And so about a week before results day, I decided that I was going to take a gap year. Regardless of what my A-level results were, I was going to take a gap year because I now obviously had the funds to travel during my gap year. I was really craving an adventure because I've been working non-stop for 5-6 weeks now, all through summer, and obviously watching everyone else go on holiday on Instagram, it was just a bit like, oh, I want to be in the sun. And so, as much as I love my job, I also did really want to go and travel and things. And the other thing that definitely played a part was the fact that I had a free interrailing ticket. So there's this scheme called Discover EU where you can apply for a free interrailing ticket, and I think they give out 250,000 free interrailing tickets a year to 18-year-olds, but I'm going to double check that number, and if it's wrong I'll put a different one on screen now. And it's to try and promote European integration, but basically it means that you get a free interrailing ticket and you can travel wherever you want in Europe with the actual train travel bit being free. And so I had a free one of those, and my plan previously was to use it between Hop Week, which is like freshers in the Netherlands, and when my course actually started, and kind of just travel around the Netherlands, maybe the neighbouring countries, but I knew I'd only have about 4 days and it wasn't necessarily the best use of the pass. And so now that I suddenly had this opportunity to travel, or I could go to university in the UK, but I still wasn't sure about the course, I thought, no, I'm going to do interrailing properly, I'm going to use my pass, and so I decided to take a gap year. So as I say, this was about a week before results day. So when results day rolled around, I mean, the results didn't really matter to me apart from obviously for the next year. I decided to defer my place at Manchester because I still wanted the option that I could go the following year. I couldn't really see myself going to any other UK unis at that point. So results were important because I needed to get my grades for Manchester, but I wasn't that fussed about how I did. I ended up doing all right. I got 3 A's, I was really happy with that. It meant I got into Manchester and actually all of the other universities I applied to. So I didn't fail my A-levels, but I definitely still wanted to take a gap year. I was quite emotionally exhausted, would be the word, I guess. I mean, this sounds really dramatic, I wasn't that bad. But yeah, I was quite drained from A-levels and then going straight into work, and then obviously like not being able to see my family for a little while after my grandma passed away. Like, I just wanted a bit of time to kind of breathe and not go charging straight into the next thing. So they're kind of all of the reasons why I decided to take a gap year. I think this video has been a bit of a mess. I'm not very good at explaining things, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I'm going to talk about what I actually did on my gap year and how I planned it in other videos, so make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, give this video a big thumbs up, and leave me a comment if you have enjoyed it. That is all for this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and see you next time.